Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of My Great Aunt EDNA. You'll hear from Ed Brinson, General Manager of American Airlines, on how he equates accountability with caring. Enough said. Let's get to it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show of My Great Aunt EDNA, the leadership show that talks about excellence, doing things the right way, no shortcuts, and accountability. And today I have a very special guest. Happens to be a friend of mine that I've known for 23 years, but an exemplary leader. I've seen him progress over the time, and I know he's going to have some nuggets of wisdom for you leaders out there and you aspiring leaders. So I want to introduce Mr. Ed Brinson. Ed, has been in leadership for such a long time. He's a Marine. I mess with him all the time about that because, I'm former Army, HUA. But, as a Marine, they have some great examples of leadership as well. And I'm sure he'll share a little bit. But, Ed is currently a general manager of American Airlines of the Destin, Florida location, which happens to be one of the most sought after vacation spots in the world. So you can just imagine how busy that airport is. I've actually seen him in action. He's done a great job, for them, has worked in Charlotte, North Carolina as well, but I don't want to tell his full story. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to turn it over to Ed, let him tell a little bit about himself, and then we'll get into some leadership questions that I'm sure you guys will learn from. So Ed, take it away, sir.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mac. And I'm not one that likes to talk about myself, so I'll make this very, very brief. Started, as you said, I was in the Marine Corps for a number of years. Hoorah. Not hua, and started with American Airlines back in 2002, not long after the towers went down, and been with American for going on 21 years now. So started out in Charlotte, where worked with several thousand employees, and decided to take a different role down here in the Destin area that you mentioned. Running a station down here. So it's been a great journey. I've enjoyed it, learned a lot over the years with leadership. I'm excited to talk to you today with Aunt Edna and what you have going on with that platform and sharing your wisdom. So look forward to this interview.
Well, thank you, sir. So, we'll jump right into the questions. And so, again, I know you personally, and I know that you have a caring heart. That's just, who you are. And leadership today, being a caring leader is extremely important. But also, I know you have other priorities that you have to be cognizant of as a leader, especially of such, a large organization, something as important as, running an airline. But as a leader, how do you actually care or show care for your employees, but at the same time, making sure that you're cognizant of everything else that you need to be aware of?
That's a good question. And during my 20-year career with the world's largest airline, I found caring for employees is absolutely critical in order to survive and succeed as a leader. We all work in the people business. Our capitalistic society is driven by a product or service and trading those commodities for currency. In order for those commodities to be made or created or sold and purchased, we utilize human resources to get the job done. People are the central piece of the entire economic system. So, we produce, move, and consume products or services as normal parts of our, daily lives. Keeping this in mind, caring for my team is absolutely critical in order to get anything done. I can't run a very busy airline operation or achieve aggressive goals myself. It takes a team of people to get the job done safely and on time. So.
No, that's good. And I love the way you started out, where we're in the people business, because sometimes, that can get confused with, everything else that we're doing. But, in an organization like that you run, without people, nothing happens. Like, we're not getting on planes, and I'm not taking that next trip for a speaking engagement. So, I love that fact about you. But I got another question for you. Again, it's around caring, but have you ever had a leader that's a little bit higher up in the hierarchy that has actually questioned you or, challenged you about your priority of caring for your employees over something else?
I've never had a leader higher than me question that, but throughout my tenure with the airline, I've worked alongside many members of management who didn't necessarily agree or understood why I go the extra mile to do the right thing, by caring for employees. You speak on this in some of your writings on Edna. The focus was all about performance output to make themselves look good at the expense of others. With individuals I'm referring to,
Right.
they viewed people as a necessary evil to get the job done. Many of those personalities are no longer with the company. I've practiced the Zig Ziglar methodology of leadership. If you help others succeed, you will inevitably succeed yourself. So, and you help them succeed by caring enough to explain company and your expectations, ensure they are trained effectively, ensure they have the proper tools to do their jobs efficiently, and support them as needed, letting them know that you're always available and you have an open door policy.
Okay, that's good, sir. So no, I appreciate that answer. So, you mentioned My Great Aunt Edna, and of course that's what the show is about. And Great Aunt Edna always speaks about accountability. And again, in an environment that you're in, because it's so important. I mean, everything safety and timeliness, and I mean, you have some serious critical things you have to be aware of as a leader. But and knowing that you're caring for your employees, but how do you still instill that environment of accountability to make sure that everything gets done when it needs to happen?
Another great question. Accountability, in my opinion, is the pinnacle of caring. Nobody I've seen in 20 years coming into a new position within our industry, and probably in any industry, are 100% compliant with all rules, regulations, mandates, company policies and procedures, et cetera. I show employees and frontline leaders I care by holding them accountable. Teaching, coaching, correcting, to help them be better at what they do by understanding the policy, following them, being dependable, completing their task on time and safely, explaining the why. I think the why is very important from an accountability standpoint. Along with the way that uh, the how as well. I'm sorry. The why and how are very important. Why it's important to do the things, and how it impacts the team, how it impacts the organization when they're not compliant. This is how people learn to grow. It's actually how I learned to grow to my current level of responsibilities. If you don't hold people accountable, you're part of the problem, and you're
Oh,
part of their failures as well as an
I love
organization.
that. Yeah,
So
that's a
I,
good one right there. No,
I go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, no, no. I'm sorry I interrupted, but I'm just saying that was good. It was so good that it got me thinking, like, man, I need to write on that. That's good. But yeah, so you're part
Yeah,
of the problem. That was good. But
yeah,
continue.
yeah. Part of the problem and part of the failures, right? So I explained to the employees during the coaching and correcting process, if I didn't care for their job, their livelihood, or their family's well-being, uh, honestly, I wouldn't take the time to coach, teach, and correct their negative behaviors to help them be better employees. I'd simply allow them to fail and replace them. And honestly, that's not caring at all for anyone.
No, no, no. Very good. No, that was a great answer, man. You really got me thinking on that one. Yeah, if you're not holding people accountable, you're part of the problem. Outstanding. I love that line. You know, and thinking about, your tenure and, with this next question, I don't want you to really think about your current role, but, complete career wise, going all the way back to that 18-year-old, Marine, new, hitting the boots on the ground, beating your face, all that good stuff that the Marines do for no good reason whatsoever. But anyway, um, and thinking through your entire career, have you ever had a leader that showed you care personally that impacted or changed your direction from where you were initially headed?
Yeah, yeah, another great question. And yeah, taking the Marine Corps is a different animal. The Army is a different animal, right? We have different ways of doing things in the military. There's a structure, there that you really don't need a whole lot of people skills. You just need rank, and you do what I say or else, right?
Right.
so, so coming from the military to corporate America was a culture shock, but also it allowed me to get more insight or a different perspective on things from a leadership perspective. So years ago, when I made a mistake that was embarrassing for me and those above me, my director pulled me aside and said, hey, Ed, it's okay to fail. That's how we learn. It's from our mistakes. We expect people to stumble as part of the learning curve. The most important thing to remember is not the stumble or the fall, but how you get back up and what you learn from it. Even more important is how you handle the mistake. Did you try to lie and cover it up? Did you blame someone else, or did you accept ownership and put together an action plan to, prevent occurrences or reoccurrences? So, that will determine how far you go in the organization. That's how it was explained to me. So trust, honesty, and accountability for your own actions are invaluable traits. And that holds true for the military as well. There's a whole accountability piece there that you're very well familiar with, that you take accountability for your own actions, and you got to learn from them, because if you don't, it'll cost you your life or the life of your comrade. So.
All right. So good answer. Good answer. For a Marine. Okay, I'm gonna lay up off that. I'm just joking. All right. But seriously though, I'm nosy. You already know that. So I want to know what the mistake was that you made. Like when you said you made a mistake, like what happened? What did you do? Tell us about
Well, I made a lot of mistakes, so it's
it.
picking one is it's going to be hard. So you don't get to where you are or get to where I am by making just one mistake, right? You make a lot of mistakes along the way, and yeah, you just learn from them.
I know what you're doing right now. I know what you're doing. So
I'm yes,
I already know you're not trying to give me something to rub it in later on, because
absolutely.
I was absolutely going to do that. I'll just throw
I
that
know
out
I
there.
know exactly what you're up
Yeah,
to, and
that's what I was
and
going to
I'm not falling for it, especially since this will be seen by many.
do. All right, that's cool. All right, but on a serious note, man, I know you have some things going on yourself. Been working on a show, the job real talk. Very proud of your efforts and what you're doing there. And again, I know you have some value that you can add to people's lives. So, tell us a little bit about, what the show is going to be about, what you're trying to accomplish and the impact that you're trying to make.
Oh yeah, well, thanks for asking, and thanks for the opportunity to share it to your audience. The job real talk is just it's a project I'm working on, so similar to you, right? You're working on a project to further your passion with leadership, and I'm doing the same. I've been in leadership for many years, and I actually teach leadership development for American Airlines as well. So, but that's within our own organization. And when I go out into the public and I interact with different members of management or even employees, something as simple as Walmart, when we were standing in line and employees were complaining about their supervisor and how they talk to them and don't respect them. I wanted to share my knowledge with a wider audience than just the American Airlines organization. So the Job Real Talk is just a platform I feel can help do that. What most people don't realize is, there was many studies that have been done over the past 50 or 60 years, uh, and they consistently show that 85% of the workforce are not happy with their jobs.
That's a
You
lot.
think that's a lot, and you think that's just here in America. You think about that. That's 155 million workers. 131 million are unhappy in some aspect with their jobs. So when you look at it from that perspective, the job real talk is just a platform for me to be able to not only share my leadership skills,
Mhm.
and it's not about me, it's about collaborating with other leaders and
Right.
employees and getting their perspectives on things that go on in the workplace, like, you know, good managers, bad managers, good employees, bad employees, you know, gossiping, the grapevine,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
sorts of things that we all deal with in our respective jobs because we're all human beings. So these problems transcend across industries, right? So it's just a platform where people can get together, collaborate, and talk about those things and share from their perspectives how they deal with it, how management views these things, and how employees view management. So that's pretty much what the platform is going to be about.
All
Thanks
right.
for letting me share that.
Yeah, man, most definitely. I'm interested in seeing the format of the show and the impact that it drives. So I already know you're extremely intellectual and you think through things a lot. And get down to the nth degree of detail. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes. So I have one last question for you before we wrap up this episode, but. You know me, man. You already know I'm a realist. And so I'm just going to throw this question out there.
Okay.
As a leader in today's environment, 2022, and all the challenges that come with it, what kind of shit really pisses you off as a leader that you wish you could change?
Another good and crazy question, right?
Yeah.
Uh, what pisses me off? There's plenty of things that can piss you off on a daily basis. And I guess, what pisses me off the most, more than anything else, is when someone clearly uh, has been non-compliant.
Mhm.
There is history of it.
Yeah.
You definitely have the proof, and yet they won't accept ownership. But instead, they blame everyone else
Right. Right.
or implies others are doing something wrong in an effort to deflect and, away from themselves and their own shortcomings. And that is so frustrating to me because the first step in fixing any root issue is first understanding and accepting the issue itself.
Right.
That whole ownership piece I talked to you about earlier with accountability. Uh, how do you teach that? Somebody has to already, that has to be bred in them already. And you got a wide variety of people that come into the workforce from many different backgrounds, and I that just frustrates the hell. It pisses me off.
Yeah, let's be real about it. It pisses you off.
It pisses me
Yeah.
off. And in the Marine Corps and the Army, you can tell
Uh,
them that, you know, get your shit together
there you go.
and
Yeah.
let's move on. We got a
Yeah.
mission to accomplish. But you
Yes.
just can't do that in corporate America because you're being in the unemployment line, right?
No. I do want to challenge you on one thing you said though.
Yeah.
But that was a great answer, and I appreciate your transparency and honesty as usual. But you mentioned that people have to come in, with that accountability built in, which it makes our job easier if that's the case. You're right. It's easier to lead. But I'm thinking about me personally. Me as an early soldier. Of course, my mom and dad instilled some principles in me, but to be honest with you, those principles, some of them didn't come alive until I was 25. They said some things, but at 18, I'm like, I didn't listen to anything they said, right? And through the other leadership that came into my life in various forms, the principles that I had earlier started to form, and I'm like, okay, I get it now. I get it now. And I think as leaders, sometimes it's also important for us to help instill, whether they had it or not, but, instill the importance of, you're talking about personal accountability,
Mhm.
instilling personal accountability, taking ownership. And you're right. There are a lot of people that just don't do it initially, but there are some people that, 10 years down the road, they hear that voice of Ed Brinson in their head and they're like, you know what? That made a lot of sense what he said. I actually didn't listen back then, but that made a lot of sense. So I just wanted to challenge you on that one piece right there.
No, that's good. And you're right. Those who are willing to grow actually do grow and develop those traits.
Yeah.
But it's those
Absolutely.
who are unwilling to accept your
Yeah.
counsel.
Yeah. And those are the ones that you mentioned earlier where you said, you know what? You got to go. Yeah. A few
Exactly.
of those that are like, well, they're no longer employed here. I love when you said that earlier.
Exactly.
I get it.
But
I
yeah,
get it.
good point. Yeah.
Yeah. But gonna go ahead and wrap this up, man. But I truly appreciate you, spending some time with the great Aunt Edna nieces and nephews out there. There are a lot of people who, they know leadership and they've been doing it for so long, but it's always good to hear from other leaders to remind you of, a couple things that maybe you forgot. So, I appreciate you instilling some wisdom. And then for the young people out there, hopefully you guys are watching this show. And reach out to Ed Brinson. We'll put his contact information up at the end of this, where you guys can reach out, maybe ask some questions, and even about the new show, Job Real Talk, and maybe even get a spot on his show. But I appreciate you adding value, to what I'm doing with this leadership culture of Aunt Edna, sir.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you. Always a pleasure. Love you, man.
Always a pleasure, man.
Hoorah.
Love you. Hooah, no, man. Hooah. And I'll see you soon.
We'll agree to disagree on that. And
All
hey,
right.
get something for that cough you got.
Wow. All right, guys.
All right.
Hello there. I just want to thank everyone for tuning into today's show. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the My Great Aunt Edna YouTube channel to hear from more great leaders from all around the world. And I want to thank Ed Brinson today for sharing his leadership wisdom on the show. And you can reach out to Ed directly. The information is on the screen, and you can hear more about his upcoming leadership endeavors. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the My Great Aunt Edna YouTube channel to hear from more great leaders from all around the world. And also, I just want to remind you about my book coming out titled My Great Aunt Edna, The Golden Girl of Leadership. Will be coming out soon. It will be available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and wherever books are sold. And with that, I say, may your week be excellent and God bless.